My name is Sarah. I'm 38 years old, and over the years I've mastered the art of hiding my emotions behind a polite smile. But one day, I realized that my past still haunted me, like a shadow that only grows longer the faster you try to run from it. It happened unexpectedly. I was heading home after a long day at work when I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. Luke, my ex. The man who betrayed me in ways I couldn't even imagine. My life split into before and after the night I discovered he had been with my best friend behind my back. We'd been together for nearly 3 years, and I was planning our future together. Instead, I got a knife in the back. The night I found out still feels like a bad dream. It was a Friday evening, and I decided to surprise Luke with his favorite dinner. I had left work early, picked up the ingredients, and even stopped by a bakery to get the chocolate cake he loved. I remember humming to myself as I climbed the stairs to his apartment, carrying the bags and feeling a warm anticipation. We had been distant lately, but I thought this little surprise would help bring us closer. As I unlocked the door, I heard laughter, a woman's laughter. At first, I thought I must be imagining it. But as I stepped inside, the sound grew louder, unmistakable. My heart sank. I moved quietly, not wanting to believe what my instincts were already telling me. When I reached the living room, I froze. There they were, Luke and my best friend, tangled on the couch, completely oblivious to my presence. The sight hit me like a punch to the stomach. I felt the bags slip from my hands, the sound of groceries scattering across the floor breaking the spell. They turned to look at me, their faces a mix of shock and guilt. "Sarah," Luke started, but I didn't let him finish. "Don't," I said, my voice trembling. I could feel tears welling up, but I refused to let them fall. Not there, not in front of them. I turned and walked out, ignoring Luke's calls after me. My mind was a blur as I stumbled down the stairs and out into the cold night. The world around me seemed to spin, the betrayal cutting deeper with every step I took. My best friend, the person I had trusted with everything, and Luke, the man I thought I'd spend my life with. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. That night I sat in my car for hours, unable to drive, unable to think. I replayed every moment of our relationship, every interaction with my so-called best friend, searching for signs I might have missed. The pain was overwhelming, but so was the anger. I deserved better. I knew that, even in the depths of my despair. But the details wouldn't leave me. The way her laughter rang out so comfortably in his space. How natural they looked together, as if this hadn't been the first time. I remembered her advice to trust Luke when I'd expressed doubts about our relationship. How blind I had been. The betrayal wasn't just about infidelity, it was about deception on a level that made me question my own instincts. Days turned into weeks. I was barely functioning, going through the motions of my life while the betrayal played on a loop in my mind. Friends tried to comfort me, telling me to move on, that Luke wasn't worth it. But it wasn't that simple. Trust had been shattered, not just in Luke or my best friend, but in myself. How could I have let them fool me? Months later, I thought I was finally healing when, of all places, I saw Luke again. He didn't notice me. He was rushing somewhere, lost in his thoughts. I stood frozen in the middle of the street, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. I thought I had left that pain behind long ago, but it turned out it was still there, buried deep, waiting for the right moment to resurface. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories flooded back, each one sharper than the last. I thought about the times Luke and I shared, the plans we made, the promises he broke. I found myself questioning everything. How could I have missed the signs? How did I let myself be so blind? The next morning, I went to the coffee shop where I usually have my morning coffee. And who did I see? Luke. He was sitting at a nearby table reading a newspaper, as if nothing had ever happened. As if he hadn't shattered my world. I couldn't believe my luck. Or curse. To see him twice in 2 days after years of avoiding each other. I wanted to get up and leave, but something held me back. Maybe it was the need to finally close an old wound, to say what I'd been carrying inside for so many years, or maybe I just wanted to understand why he had done what he did. Either way, I ordered my coffee and stayed. When he looked up and our eyes met, I saw his surprise. His eyes widened and then he smiled. The same smile that used to melt me but now only brought bitterness. "Sarah?" he said, as if he wasn't sure it was really me. "I can't believe it. How long has it been? How are you?" He spoke as if we were old friends who'd run into each other on the street. His casual tone made me furious, but I kept my composure. Instead of answering, I just looked at him, waiting for him to say more. And he did. "You look amazing," he continued, as if we were talking about the weather. "It's great to see you. Care to join me?" And I did. Not because I wanted to, but because I realized I needed to. I needed to hear him explain his betrayal, even if it hurt. We talked for a long time. He told me how much he'd changed, how he was a different person now, how he regretted what happened between us. But every word felt hollow to me. Apologies can't erase the pain he caused. They can't give back the years I spent rebuilding myself after our breakup. That conversation stayed with me for days. I replayed his words in my mind, wondering if there was any truth to them. Did he really change? Or was it just another mask, another lie? It didn't matter. What mattered was how I felt, and I realized I still felt trapped by the past. I went home feeling drained. It seemed like I'd heard everything I wanted, but somehow, it didn't bring me any relief. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a woman who had carried this burden for far too long. My past was still poisoning my present, and it had to stop. The next day, I decided to leave the city and visit a place I'd been dreaming about for years. It was a small cabin by a lake, a place where I could be alone with my thoughts. I brought along an old photo album that had been gathering dust on the top shelf of my closet. Inside were pictures from a time when I was happy, when I believed in people and in love. Flipping through the pages, I saw the younger version of myself again. A girl who laughed, loved life, and believed that anything was possible. I realized I had lost that part of me, and that was the most painful thing. Not Luke's betrayal, but how I had allowed it to change me. I closed the album and decided it was time to reclaim that Sarah. I spent several days at the lake. I walked along the shore, breathed in the fresh air, and wrote in my journal. I reflected on my dreams, the ones I'd abandoned. I thought about what I truly wanted in life and what I was ready to leave behind. One of the most unexpected things happened when I met an elderly woman named Meg. She lived nearby, and we struck up a conversation. Her story moved me. She shared how she, too, had experienced betrayal in her youth but refused to let it destroy her life. She inspired me. We sat by her fireplace, sipping tea, and she said, "Don't let the past dictate your future. We can't change what happened, but we can change how we respond to it." Meg's words stayed with me. As I sat by the lake the next morning, watching the sunrise, I realized how much I'd been holding myself back. I'd been waiting for closure that could only come from within. And in that quiet moment, I made a decision. I was going to stop letting my past define me. When I returned to the city, I felt different. It was as if I had left part of my pain behind on that lakeshore. But the real test was yet to come. A few days later, I saw Luke again. This time, he wasn't alone. He was walking with a young woman who was holding his hand. They were laughing, looking happy. And in that moment, I realized I didn't feel pain anymore. Just a faint regret for all the time I'd wasted on someone who didn't deserve it. I looked at them and smiled to myself. It was a sign that I was ready to move on. And I truly did start a new life. I returned to my passions, started meeting new people. I even signed up for an art class I'd always dreamed about. My past no longer held me back. Months later, I received a letter. It was from Luke. He wrote that our last meeting had made him think. He apologized again, but this time his words felt different. He admitted his actions were inexcusable and thanked me for finding the strength to forgive him. He said my resilience inspired him to become a better person. I read the letter and smiled. I didn't need his apology anymore. I had already found my peace. The girl I used to be was gone, and in her place stood a woman who knew her worth. And for the first time in years, I felt free.